Learning algebra with Ms. Rodriguez. By the end of this video, you will understand domain and range using interval notation. In this example, we want to write the domain and range of the function using interval notation. So interval notation means that there is some interval where stuff is happening, and we're going to use a notation to say what section that is happening in. Domain is all of our x values, so I want to look at all the possible x's for domain. Because I'm focused on domain x values, I want to say, okay, everything in here in this section, there is stuff happening. So we can ask ourselves, what is the farthest left point of this graph? So I can kind of think of a section where I am going the farthest left I can. So the farthest left I can go is right here in this section. And what is the x value of that point? -7. And because -7 is a closed circle, we can put a bracket all the way up to what is the farthest right section of that. So the farthest right happens to be +7. Again, we are including the number, so I'm going to put a +7 with a closed bracket. Range is asking about what is the lowest a picture can go. So looking at this graph, what is the lowest it can go? So for lowest, you want to think, okay, from what section to what section is stuff happening in the y values? So from the lowest, -6, to the highest, +3. So for my lowest, which was -6, even though there is no dots, because there is no hole, there is no solid, I can put a bracket. It's a solid line, which basically means it's a closed-in circle. And then the highest we can go is +3. And again, even though there is no dot, because that is the ceiling of my graph, I want to say that 3 in the y values. Another way of thinking about it is kind of listing the ordered pairs of the points you're looking at. So if I were to list my points, for each point, I need to know if I am identifying for x values or y values. So in the domain, I am looking at all my possible x values. X values means that I'm looking at the first number in my ordered pair. So because this is the farthest left point, I'm looking at -7 to 7. And even though 2 and -4 are part of the ordered pair, I don't care about that number because I'm only looking at x value. Now for range, because that one has to deal with the y, I am looking at the second number after the ordered pair. So second number after the ordered pair, that's why it's from -6 to 3, because I do not care about the x values for those points in this case. So looking at another example, we want to use interval notation. I want to identify my farthest left point. So I always want to consider farthest left versus farthest right, and use that as a guide to see where I need to go. So in this case, what is my farthest left point? It appears that it's over here on the top, and because of the arrow, we're going to use something else. We are going to use the infinity symbol. Because the left means that this graph is going to keep going to the left infinitely, and the left has negative numbers, then I'm going to use a negative infinity, and infinities are always going to use parentheses because they cannot be included. And then I'm going to decide what is the farthest right this graph goes. Well, after this point, there is no more graph, so that is my farthest right point. So I can say, okay, that is +2, because again, we want to focus on the x values. Because this is a solid line, there are no holes, and it's not infinity, I'm going to use a bracket. For range, I want to discuss what is the lowest the graph can go. So the lowest the graph can go would be down here. However, there is an arrow, which means it's going to infinitely keep going down forever, and that's negative numbers. So I'm going to use a negative infinity again. And again, infinities will always get parentheses. I again want to ask, what is the highest the graph can go? Well, the highest we can go is positive infinity because we have an arrow, and that means we're going to keep going in the up direction forever. In this third example, again, I want to look at interval notation for the domain and range. So these are the questions I should be asking myself. Step 1, what is the farthest left for domain? So the farthest left in this case is -4. Notice that it is an open circle. So I am going to use parentheses -4. And then I want to ask myself, what is the farthest right? So the farthest right is all the way over here. However, that is a arrow, which means it goes on forever in the positive direction to the right, so positive infinity. Range is the lowest that the graph can go. So I ask myself, what is the lowest, and look at the y values. So the lowest this can go is -6. So I'm going to write -6. And again, because it's an open circle, that's going to mean parentheses. And then I want to ask, what is the highest this graph can go? So this graph can go infinitely in the up direction. So again, this is an infinity with a parentheses. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with fellow educators or students.